Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Barbara Spreckman. I work at the Mercer Council on Alcoholism and Drug Addiction. I'm the Assistant Executive Director, and I also head up the Prevention Coalition of Mercer County. I'm really excited today to bring you a speaker from the Council of Compulsive Gambling of New Jersey. Frank Lazzaro is a prevention specialist, and he has agreed to come on today and talk to us about the council, about their mission and goals and so forth, and also some new trends and ongoing trends that we're seeing in gambling and gaming right now. March is a Problem Gambling Awareness Month, so it's very timely that we bring this information to bear right now. So I'm going to just get started. Frank, I'm going to have you just talk a little bit about yourself, your own background with the council, and the work that you do there.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Please ask any questions that you like. Thank you for the kind introduction. My name is Frank Lazzaro, as was mentioned. I am a prevention specialist with the Council on Compulsive Gambling of New Jersey. The council has been in existence for 38 years. Most people recognize us more by what I refer to as our street name, which is 800 Gambler. Officially, it's 1-800-GAMBLER. The Council on Compulsive Gambling in New Jersey patented that trademark about 30 some odd years ago, hence 1-800-GAMBLER. The one is pretty much a function of what the technology was back then. For those that might recall, you needed a 1 to dial outside of your area. Today, all you really need to do is just dial 800-GAMBLER. All 800-GAMBLER is a helpline. We are not for or against gambling. We are a statewide nonprofit who offer resources for individuals and their families that are experiencing difficulties as a result of problem gambling, a small percentage who develop serious gambling disorders. So, for example, what would happen is if you were to call 800-GAMBLER or go to our website, which is 800gambler.org, we would strongly suggest, we try to determine where you live geographically in the state of New Jersey, and strongly suggest attendance to the fellowship 12-step program of Gamblers Anonymous, which is very similar to AA, NA, just tweak a few words. The other thing we offer is clinical therapeutic services. Now, we do not do the treatment ourselves. We have partnered with treatment providers throughout the state of New Jersey, in the vicinity of 45 to 50 geographically located, so that if an individual was looking for clinical therapeutic services, we have the ability to refer. Now, whether they're sole practitioners or agencies, licensed agencies in the state of New Jersey, most already have their credentials and are treating for substance use disorders, mental health disorders, et cetera, and they are understanding how important it is just to ask the questions. Because gambling is something that's universal. It's global. It's in every culture. It's in every society. As I mentioned, we're not for or against gambling. I'll touch a little bit on the co-occurring that exists, the transferring of addiction. I know a term we've been trying to move away from because of the stigma that's associated with the term. And it's not only the individuals that develop problems. Most of the calls, let's say the majority, more than 50%, are not from the individual that develops the problem. It's from the family members. And similar to the medical world, it's not only individual that's affected. Research is now suggesting that probably anywhere from the vicinity of 5 to 10 individuals, close friends, family members, are impacted. And the same, from my understanding, pretty much holds true, God forbid, in the medical world. An individual, a family member is diagnosed with a serious illness. It's not only the individual that's dealing with the illness, it's the family structure, parents, children, grandparents, close friends that are impacted also. So that's pretty much what our goal is. And I like to say is if we ever got to the point where every resident that resides in the state of New Jersey was aware of these services being available, these resources, I might have to come to work for the Mercer Coalition.
Ah, okay,
That would be a good thing.
right.
There's just so many challenges I see out there in the world. To touch on the co-occurring. Again, not a commentary on what it should or should not have been. This is what the residents, the voters in the state of New Jersey wanted. Now the legalization of marijuana for adult recreational purposes. What exactly that's going to look like, I'm not exactly sure, but we have a concern because the same way we have concerns about alcohol consumption when an individual is gambling, it's about the concern is about the impairment component to it.
Right. Right.
Gambling is difficult enough as it is. We plug into every population that we possibly can, from the adolescents. I've had success over the last couple of years with doing presentation to the high school teenage population, just to let them become aware. And they don't know about the resources that are available.
Right.
I don't
Right.
believe their families do.
Mhm.
Um,
Tell me a little bit about what gambling looks like in the adolescent. I mean, what do you see there? What, you know, what is their preferred gambling, I don't know, model, or what are they involved in?
Well, what that really segues into, one of the reasons I believe me and my colleagues have had success getting into the adolescent population is because of this whole video gaming phenomenon that's taking
Mm,
place.
mhm.
To answer your question directly, historically, yes, what we would hear from the educators, from the SAC counselors, from the health teachers, well, our children aren't old enough. They're not legally able to gamble. And I understand that, but because of this world opening up with video gaming, the term I like to use is, this is not my term, the monetization of video gaming.
Mhm.
So, for example, I've had to educate myself. Video gaming, what does it look like? I have adult children in their 30s. Everything is driven today by technology. I'll get back to the gambling about what that's looking like, with everything being online today, legally. Video gaming's really opened up the world for us to present to the adolescent population. And I've even incorporated in every presentation that I do, from the adolescents to the seniors. And you might say, well, why would you talk about video gaming with the seniors? Well, it doesn't mean that they're not playing, but I'm really grateful. One day I was doing a presentation a couple of years ago to a senior group up in Morris County, and I mentioned about video gaming. I'm really grateful that I did. There was a woman, probably her, my age group, a baby boomer, who said, Frank, I'm really glad you mentioned that. And she shared with the group that day that her 10-year-old grandson, his birthday was coming up. And she said, as opposed to me randomly just going out and making a purchase, buying him sneakers or a t-shirt or something like that, let me ask him what he wants. This 10-year-old turns around to his grandmother and says, oh, that's great, Grandma. You think you can give me a $50 gift card? She says, why would I give you a $50 gift card? Oh, I can use that in the video games that I play.
Oh,
She says,
wow.
you a $50 gift card. So what that really means is, and the adolescents do know about this, I've been educated by, there are things such as skins and loot boxes. So to answer your question, yeah, they're not going to the casinos. I mean, there are protocols in place, to identify the legal age, which is New Jersey, to play any of the legal forms of gambling that exist is 21, with the exception of the New Jersey lottery, which is 18. Things like skins. So what is a skin? A
Mm,
skin is just a cosmetic item, like they wrap their weapons or whatever in the games in these different colors. And there's a
wow.
price to it. And then
Wow.
even the monetization component even more is greater. And I'm not totally expert in this, but just to give everyone a feel for it, loot boxes. It's random. You have to pay, whether it's with hard currency or something that's really become prevalent in the video gaming world and maybe in society itself, is cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, things like that.
Mhm, mhm.
And there's a randomness to it. Just because you pay doesn't necessarily mean that you get what you're looking for. whether it's a cosmetic item, whether it's to increase your play. Now, I want to be totally clear. Also, you can attain these things in the video games by the proficiency of your play.
Mhm.
But many, analogous to the gambling world, do they have the patience? Do they have the proficiency?
Right.
So the adolescents aren't necessarily going to the casino. Now that New Jersey's 2.5 years in, New Jersey legalized online sports betting. In June of 2018, it commenced. So we're 2.5 years in. And the numbers are astronomical. The amount of dollars that are being wagered. I mentioned about co-occurring. One of the biggest distinctions or differences is that 90% of the population are considered social recreational gamblers. Very simply meaning they see gambling for what gambling should be, a form of entertainment. No problem. There's nothing wrong with going to the casinos in Atlantic City, or now that our neighboring states pretty much all have casinos. You have your budget. You're going to play a little bit. You're going to go to the shows. You're going to have dinner, win or lose, as long as you're of age. Putting a couple dollars on the sporting event. But even now, the look of that is completely different. And even with making it connected with the video gaming, it's these in-play purchases, this in-game wagering on sporting events, for example. It's no longer that it used to be, even though they were all illegal, offshore sites, or even dating myself, going back with the local bookmaker on the corner, you would call up and say, oh, let me have $10 on the Phillies against the Yankees tonight, whatever it may be. You can actually wager as the game is being played. You can wager on, in the sport of baseball, whether the next pitch is going to be a strike or a ball, whether in basketball, whether the next basket that's going to be scored, a point that's going to be scored, is a 3-point basket or a foul shot, whether the next play in football is going to be a run or a pass. And you have the opportunity legally, because of technology, whether it's on your laptop, on your iPad, your tablet, your device, as a Droid or an iPhone, whatever it may be. And you don't have to be and this is also true with iGaming, which is internet casino gambling. Back in 2014, New Jersey became the first state in the United States to legalize online casino gambling.
Wow.
Myself, my colleagues, in the industry, had a sense that this was going to be the wave of the future. I believe that this world that we live in, which now I can't believe it's been a year it has passed with the stay at home, it's been accelerated. Actually, I believe it was March 11th, which is today, of last year, 2020, when the National Basketball Association actually shut down their all the games that were to be played. And then all the other professional sports leagues, baseball, hockey, whatever, Major League Soccer, all shut down. So we went through a period of several months where there was no sports available, no college available. I do want to mention, since I mentioned college, in the legislature in the state of New Jersey, you are not allowed, or the operators are not allowed, to offer you the opportunity to wager on New Jersey athletic teams. So, for example, if you wanted to put a wager on football, Rutgers football or basketball, or any other university or colleges in the state, you're prohibited from doing that.
Why is that? Why do you think that is? Huh?
Well, because many of these athletes are not 21 already.
Oh,
The integrity of the game, and it's all intertwined. I've attended webinars, for example, about opioids in athletes.
Right.
The goal there is, and I'm sure you're more versed in this than I am, is that they are injured while participating in these athletic activities. And
yes.
and it's not a criticism, even in the medical community, they were prescribed painkillers that turned out to be very detrimental. And there was that percentage that developed serious disorders behind it, became addicted to the drugs.
Absolutely. Unwitting addicts, right? Not
Yes.
knowing that this was going to happen. Yeah.
Right. So there's been, because what we try to do is, myself, my colleagues, try to plug into every population, try to, because of the co-occurring. Many of the individuals that meet the criteria as defined with a DSM-5, generally it's about 2 to 3%, although Rutgers came out with a study back in 2019 suggesting possibly the number in New Jersey might be more like 5 or 6% that meet the criteria of a disordered gambler. Is generally that 10% range is the 90% that I mentioned that view it as a recreational entertaining activity. Then there's that 10% that are in that problem gambling, potential disordered gambling, where it drives many things, unfortunately, similar to substances. It drives violence, it drives homelessness. The attempted suicide rate for the individual meeting the criteria of a disordered gambler is highest of all the addictions. And I do get pushback on that. Say, Frank, how is that possible? See what's going on in the United States with overdose deaths, opioid crisis, pandemic. Yes, I understand, but those are classified as accidental death. Now, do some of them want to not be with us anymore because they just can't cope with the pain anymore? Potentially. But I can only go with the research and the evidence that's out there.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, and then you have this convergence going on. So to answer your question, I hope it is, let me go back to video gaming. Are the adolescents actually wagering on these legal activities that adults are allowed to? Most likely, probably not. Although we track and we are seeing a direct correlation between individuals and family members reaching out for services, reaching out for resources, that's in direct correlation to the amount of handle, meaning the amount of dollars that are being wagered, whether it's in legal sports betting in the state of New Jersey, online casino gambling, which New Jersey, as I started to mention earlier, has legalized since 2014. Today, there's 5 states that now have legal online casino gambling, where you no longer have to physically go to the casinos. I mean, we see the advertisements. Again, just a statement of fact. I've had people that ask me and then say, Frank, I turn on however you get your news, however, whatever entertainment you watch, whether it's traditional broadcast television, cable stations, social media. They say every other commercial we see is either for legal gambling or pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
Again, it's just a statement of fact. It's not a criticism.
It's where the money is, right?
Yeah, and that's, again, the term, it's all about the dollars, the monetization that's taking place. And I can spew out some numbers. The video gaming industry, the estimates that I'm hearing now is approaching about a $200 billion industry.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
And a lot of it's driven by online. About 80-something%, I'm going to say 85, 86% of the legal gambling that takes place in the state of New Jersey is done online. New Jersey, for example, is one of the states, I just saw the numbers for 2020, even though with the shutdowns and the lockdowns, and even when the casinos were allowed to reopen at limited capacity with social distancing and all the stuff that they had to do, wanted to do, right? New Jersey still showed a surplus. We're in one of the few states that showed a profit.
Really?
Yes. And we believe because not all states, I mentioned 5 states have online casino gambling today. Yeah. Probably in the vicinity of 20 some odd states have legal sports betting.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a handful of states that are now in the process, in the legislative process of bringing online sports betting, legal sports betting to their states. For example, New York State has sports betting, but it's not online. Estimates that I've heard is that 20% of the dollars that are being wagered in the state of New Jersey are being derived from New York residents.
Oh,
now,
really?
The requirement is you could be sitting in your apartment in Manhattan or one of the outer boroughs. I'm just going the ones that are in close proximity to New Jersey. Maybe this was true historically for Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania now has legal sports betting. Pennsylvania is one of the 5 states that have online casino gambling, that you can open up an account, you can link it to your bank account, you can link it to your credit card account. And the only thing that you had to do is to actually place the wager or partake in these legal forms of gambling. You have to be in the geographic confines of the state. That's just how the technology was set up. But you can
Okay.
you place your wagers, whether it was on a sporting event. Obviously, if you wanted to stay and continue to play online casino gambling, you had to still be in the physical confines of the state. You didn't have to be a resident of the state. But once you were done, you can go back to your residence outside the state, and you can have the money, if you were fortunate enough to win a couple of dollars, go back to your state and have the money deposited back into your account.
Hmm. Now, I heard that some banks are not allowing individuals to kind of tap into their accounts to provide the money for the betting. Have you heard about that too? Certain banks
Actually, I believe, Barbara, it's the opposite now. That may have been initially. There was
Okay.
some concerns about the Wire Act, and I'm not totally versed in that. But now maybe it's been accelerated because a lot of the casinos and operators are very interested in this cashless form of payment because of the pandemic, where you don't have that interaction, where you don't have, so you can easily just use a credit card, use a debit card.
Right. Wow. I thought maybe there were still some banks out there that kind of had a conscience and said, "Oh, looks like so and so is trying to, place these bets and clean out his account. Well, we're going to put a stop on this." But I guess
Well, what
not.
I can tell you is this: there may be, but I don't believe that's the preponderance. I know Visa, MasterCard
Yeah.
allow you to use their cards. You wanted to put a $100 wager on the Super Bowl or deposit 100, you can use your credit card and it works.
Right. Credit cards are different, but yeah.
You can transfer your money directly from your bank account.
Wow.
And the biggest concern there is that in what I like to term the pre-online world, or even the pre-pandemic world, where you would go to the casino, the physical brick and mortars, you would, whatever you were wagering, $100, you would convert, they would give you chips. You would sit there, whether you were playing slots or we'll say roulette, blackjack, you could sort of gauge at some level, wow, my stack is going up. I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing okay. I'm winning. Your stack's going down. Wow, I'm not doing so. Maybe I should take a break. Maybe I should step away, have a cup of coffee, do something. But now with these micro transactions being that they're just instantaneous hits back and forth.
Wow. What do you see for the future? What do you think is, is this only going to get worse? Are there any ideas out there? Any
Well, I don't know if I
legislative
necessarily like the
push?
word worst, but I'll answer your question this way. I believe the expansion of gambling is going to continue. I've seen an acceleration from other states because they're viewing it as potentially a revenue source to close the budget gaps potentially that they've experienced because of the pandemic, because of COVID-19.
Right, right.
Could be it. I mentioned New York State respectfully. New York State, even though they do have legal sports betting, are considering an online sports betting world, which
Yeah,
ties into New Jersey potentially could you lose revenue because the New York players won't have the urge, the necessity, whatever term you want to use, to come to New Jersey and play. Why take that trip,
right,
et cetera.
right.
This whole convergence, video gaming, I'm sorry to keep going back to it. And I don't want to exclusively stay with the adolescents. The average age of video game participants is somewhere from 32 to 34 years old. Although the adolescents, it always comes back to in all of this stuff, and no matter what we're speaking about, I know New Jersey now, not a commentary where they should not have legalized marijuana. Alcohol has been legal since Prohibition. And I think this is pretty consistent. I'm going to defer to your expertise in the work that you gratefully you do. and your colleagues throughout the state, throughout the country, that early exposure potentially is a big problem.
Absolutely.
And
Role
the
modeling.
adolescents don't understand. I've been asked the question, well, why can my parents do it and I can't?
Right.
Because the law
Right.
says you cannot. They don't understand the concept. I do believe this to be accurate. I believe this is pretty universal, that the human brain does not fully develop until we could play semantics, 25, 26 years old. We'll stay with 25 right in the middle, right?
Mhm. Absolutely right.
Even for myself, I recall, when I was a kid, mom and dad didn't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Mom and dad did know everything about everyone. I just didn't want to hear it. And growing up in an urban environment, I grew up in the Bronx,
Yeah.
video gaming didn't exist. I don't have any
No.
interest in it at all. But you put me 10 years old, I'm standing on the corner throwing dice, not even sure what I was doing because that's what all the kids were doing in the neighborhood. And you wanted to be accepted. Even the
Yes.
whole digital world, cyberbullying, the deep web, the dark web, all these things, places that I don't suggest anyone should be going to, especially the adolescents. And I hate,
Yeah.
and my work is in every population. I mentioned about some of the potential ill effects that could happen. I do work in the veteran community, the military community. We try to plug into the whole criminal justice world, corrections. I've had the opportunity to go to the joint military base and do presentations, programs there, as of my colleagues, etc. So it's universal. Gambling predates everything that we see in our society. And even
Hmm.
as I mentioned my adult children who are in their 30s now, yeah, they were exposed to video gaming. I'm going back probably 25 years, I recall. Video gaming existed, but not to the extent that it existed today because of this whole internet online world that has become, I'm almost of the opinion,
Pervasive. Yeah.
it's everywhere. How can we
Everywhere.
survive without Wi-Fi? How can we survive without, unlimited data and all this
You're
other?
right.
We go back. We're probably not. I'm waiting
Hmm.
for the day, and you asked, one day they're just going to insert a chip in someone's arm or whatever it may be. We won't even have to carry these devices anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. This is true.
And
Now,
I'm not being critical. These have all become multi-billion, and in some cases, projections will become trillion-dollar industries. Most of the legal operators of sports betting, casinos, whether they're traditional retail brick and mortars or online, are all publicly traded companies now.
yeah. Yeah.
That being said, the whole phenomenon, there's a distinction between, let me touch on the stock market for a moment. There's a distinction between investing in the stock market and gambling in the stock market. Recently, I'm sure all of us have heard about this whole thing with these various sites investing in GameStop and AMC, the movie chain. Were they really investing? The term I think that came out of that was retail traders. I have another term for it is day traders.
Hmm. Hmm.
People will make money and people will lose a lot of money. Timing the market is, we are now getting calls from individuals that said, oh no, their thing wasn't the stock, wasn't sports betting or casinos or the lottery or whatever it may be, that they're recognizing that it's really just another form of gambling. I
Yeah.
just recently read something and I thought it was, what did they say? The stock market has developed this casino style dynamic to it.
Really? That's interesting.
This came out of a publication, Yahoo Finance, I think, put an article out about this. And this was some of the people that have been in the industry for a while were saying, yes, they said there's this new dynamic and they refer to it as the casino like dynamic.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's this convergence that's taking place.
Yeah.
Everything is out there. Um,
What about the senior population? Where are you seeing that exploding as well? Older
we see
adults?
we see increases in all the population and all the demographics. Maybe it's driven for different reasons. The senior population, which because is a population I have not been able to get back into until we probably get back to the in-person world.
Mhm.
Even if they have the technology, which I'm sure they do, a lot of they're not meeting in the public places anymore, like the public libraries or places that would hold this stuff. We are seeing seniors developing problems, possibly for loneliness, isolation,
Right.
receiving calls, maybe not from themselves. This was pre-lockdown, pre-pandemic, pre-COVID. I recall I received a phone call and basically the gist of it was that the children were visiting. I don't know if it was one child, multiple children, their father, and they were looking for something, and they opened up a drawer, and they saw all these expired lottery tickets. And they
Mm.
said, "Dad," and he was a widower. What is this? They said, "Oh, those are just losing lottery tickets, but I can write them off on my taxes."
Oh,
They totaled them. It was like something like $13,000.
oh, gee.
Now, it might
Wow.
have been over the course of a period of time. Even if you're playing $10 a week, that
Yeah.
number, and again, I'm not suggesting people should not do it. I think it was, I might have mentioned it, sorry to be repetitive. I think it was January of this year. The Powerball, the Mega Ball, one of them was something like $1 billion. And I recall, I think a person from Michigan had won it.
Mhm.
The other thing that I don't understand is I hear many times, oh, why is it that when it's like several $100 million, people want to play, but when it's 20 million, they don't want to play? What is that, chump change? You know,
Yeah, really.
you know, but
Good
it,
point.
it is what it is. It's
Yeah.
about the way I best can describe it. I don't know how accurate it is that, oh, I don't want to miss my chance.
Mhm.
Now, that being said, we are grateful that the legislature has mandated any type of legal gambling advertising that takes place in the state of New Jersey. You always have to have that blurb that says, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 800-GAMBLER.
Yeah,
It's of
that's
the
good.
lottery tickets. One of the things that happens with that, though, we get calls now, and especially when, for example, the lottery, the big lottery games approach these really ridiculous numbers, right? We'll get calls right afterwards. Okay, can you tell us what the number is last night? Because all they have is they see 800-GAMBLER. They don't really know what we do. There is definitely not a criticism, more understanding in society about the potential ills of substance abuse, alcohol abuse.
Right.
Are we making traction? I hope that we are. Even with I've done probably over the last month, 4 or 5 presentations to various high schools. My colleagues have done them also. I don't know if it's because as long as we get the opportunity, are they looking for more content, remote learning? I feel bad for families that have young children or in school trying to balance that. This is totally strange.
Yeah. Yeah, this is true.
Oh,
Wow. Well, do you have any advice for parents
you
that
have to
they
be mindful. You have to have the conversation. Let me elaborate on that for a moment. This is one of the things that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for many things. I had done a presentation several years ago. So I think it was probably 2 or 3 months ago, I got a call from an organization called Soldier On, who works with veterans on a multitude of levels. They were like, Frank, uh, could you help us? And yeah, well, what is it that you need? This was the case manager, I believe it was. They said, well, we've been working with this gentleman in Monmouth County, a veteran who I believe they said he was disabled, but he was getting some kind of stipend, some benefits, whatever it may be. He was bringing in enough where he should be able to pay his rent. This was the gist of the conversation. They thought possibly there was a substance issue involved there. They thought potentially that there was an issue of a mental health issue. No one was asking the question. And if they were asking the question, it was formed in that the gentleman didn't think he had a problem. Ultimately, what it turned out was he was spending his money at the racetrack, which is why he
Wow.
wasn't paying his rent.
Wow.
Gratefully, we've been able to get that individual into contact, and he's getting treatment now with one of our treatment providers in his area. And hopefully, there's he's getting, well, I know he's getting the help that he needs. Hopefully he stays with it.
Right, right. Thank God for that, that there are treatment specialists out there that do this. Are they listed on your website or do you?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
You
good,
can just go to 800 Gambler. Thank you. Very important question. They are listed there to the best of my knowledge.
good.
Uh, and all of the individuals, and again, I don't know if I mentioned this before, however, whether they're with their sole practitioners or licensed agencies, either under the Department of Health or DMOS, already have their credentials either in the mental health world or substance world that are starting to understand because of the co-occurring. And even just the theme of, well, NASH is, as you mentioned, thank you, during the introduction, that March is National Problem Gambling Awareness Month. We received a proclamation from the governor, other counties, from commissioners, et cetera, local officials. So there is understanding out there, and it just needs to continue to expand. But it's very rare that you see an individual whose sole problem is a gambling disorder, was having serious problem. They're probably experiencing some substance issues, more prevalent, maybe a mental health issue. I guess the question is, what came first, the chicken or the egg? And what I mean by that is, did your potential mental health issue, we'll say depression, lead you to gamble? Or did gambling lead you to become depressed? And it's not only the monetary, the dollars, it's the time that's spent. Because after a while, it becomes so prevalent that you'll miss family occasions. You don't want to be involved in social environments, social interaction. All you want to, because the mindset becomes tomorrow or today, I'm going to make the big win and the world is going to be great. But unfortunately, what's not recognized is, well, if I were to win, if the individual was to win $1 million today, are they stopping? Chances are not. The mindset's could become, I'm going to double that money tomorrow.
Right.
We do a lot of work with the legal gambling industry in the state of New Jersey. We do trainings for their customer service staff. Actually, there's a whole big push. And I truly want to believe, and I don't think I'm being naive, that they don't want to hurt anyone. You have a problem. If you have a client or a participant that is developing a serious gambling problem, that causes problems for you also as a business. So they've devoted resources. The term that you'll hear potentially is responsible play. They have protocols in place where, for example, an individual, one of their clients, is playing $100 a week, a couple hours or an hour a day, or a couple hours a week. All of a sudden, they see that individual increase it from $100 to $500, or maybe they're just spending more time at it. Those are potentially signs that that individual is maybe crossing over from that recreational entertainment gambler to a person that's potentially going to develop a problem. So these are the things that we try to do. Gambling, to the best, I look at it this way. Yeah, you're going to have individuals that go on winning streaks. And no matter what they do, they win, they win, they win, regardless of the form of gambling they're involved in legally. Eventually, it's going to turn. Yeah. You will start losing. Not because, I want to be totally clear, the operators have done anything to change anything. Yes, the odds are potentially in the house's favor. They don't have to. And I truly believe they don't want to. They want everyone to play responsibly. As far as data and collection, the United States seems to be lagging the rest of the world. We need more information. Even as I mentioned earlier, the Rutgers came out with Dr. Leonauer came out with a study in 2017. Well, that's already outdated potentially because of how rapidly the industry has grown. Then that leads me to, I just had a thought about legalization. Potentially will lead more people to, regardless of what we're talking about, because a lot of people won't partake in activities that they consider to be illegal, to be wrong, unmoral, unethical, Once that stigma is removed, because now you're telling them it's legal, which it is, they'll say, oh, yeah, this is a little bit of fun, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then you get the concept, the whole big win concept. I think that's probably one of the worst things that could possibly happen. You might be, you're not a seasoned gambler. I hope you understand what I mean by that is you're just starting to dabble in it a little bit and you win some money.
Mhm.
Wow, it's exhilarating, it's exciting, you had fun, there's all the bells and whistles. And my understanding, I haven't personally seen it, these online sites, the technology, I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost like it's been explained to me, it's those, you are physically in the casino.
It's like virtual reality, right?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
exactly, that's exactly.
Yeah. Very
Even some of these,
attractive, very hard to resist.
right. So the answer, let me get back real quick to video gaming. So the adolescents aren't gambling in the sense that adults are per se, although we have received some phone calls from 17-year-olds that are telling us they are gambling.
Mm.
I don't even think they realize they're probably not the legal sites. I don't see how it's possible because the protocols that are in place. You know, that you have to prove your identity. They use a fake ID potentially, but there's a
Mhm.
lot of illegal sites that still exist out there,
Right.
right? So
Right.
maybe that's what they're partaking in. You know, I
Yeah.
will say, you know, some of my understanding is for the most part, well, these legal sites, they are regulated. They're under the auspices of the Department of Gaming Enforcement. They're monitored. If anything goes on, you know, there's a
Mhm.
procedure where you complain, it's investigated. You know, so there are safeguards in place. These
Well,
illegal
that's
sites
good.
don't have those safeguards. You know,
Yeah.
get your money out is the things that
Right.
I've heard. I won
Right.
and I want to get my $50 out. They want to hold on to your money.
Yeah.
The longer it sits there, they know what's going to happen. You're going to say, well, I'm going to continue to play. I just won this $50. All right, so I might not have played for a week. I'm going to, you know, I'm playing with free money, house money.
Right. Right. It's very scary, and if you have kind of that addictive gene or that, this young person that I knew who became addicted to online gaming, basically had said, I'm never putting a drug in my body because my brain I want to protect my brain. And he was very intelligent. He had no idea that the gaming was doing the same exact thing to him that a
Right.
drug was doing. And you talked about social interaction. He lost several years in his adolescence where he didn't form good, strong social relationships. That's stuff he'll never get back. He's got, kind of social phobias now because he didn't have that critical period to develop it. And it's very sad.
Yeah, and we are seeing gratefully, I've been talking about like with our treatment providers, they're either in the process of they attain their credentials to be international compulsive gambling counselors, along with the other credentials they may have.
Mhm.
Now there is a credential you can get to become a counselor to treat a video gaming disorder.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
this is
good.
all fairly new. One of the
Okay.
thoughts I've always had, Barbara, is that, and I don't know how do you address this in all the stuff we're talking about. I briefly, you know, legalization of marijuana. Alcohol has been legal since prohibition, what, give or take 100 years ago, 90 years ago, whatever it was. Everything is reactive.
Mhm.
You understand what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be critical. I'm in the prevention world. And I
Right.
sometimes question myself. But I always come to the conclusion, where would our communities be without the work that I do, the work that you do, whether it's in substances, tobacco cessation, the whole phenomenon. I don't know what other word to use, of vaping. I
Yeah.
just recently heard or read something that I don't know who's doing this, but they somehow evaporate the alcohol and create a mist and then inhale it.
Yes. Yes. Inhaling alcohol. Yes, you're right. It's amazing what the different technologies have developed to get you high or Um, yes, I've heard that as well. But
And then the concern that all of us have, but I'll stay with the work that I'm involved in with the adult gambling world. One of the things that hopefully we could get into are treatment providers can only treat from 18 and older. They don't treat for the adolescents.
oh wow, well that's a problem.
Right. That's something I believe our executive director is working on with the state to see if we can expand that. They will treat not only the problem gambler, the sort of gambler, they will also treat the family members
Okay.
as part of the treatment network, but not an adolescent that actually has the problem themselves.
Well,
And
they're going to have to address that because you're right. It's getting younger and younger.
and it's the parents, the ones that really have to take ownership and know what their children is doing. But even the world that we live in, one of the thoughts that I have on a personal note, I have a 3.5-year-old grandson.
Mm.
This little man knows how to use the tablet and the iPad better than his grandfather does.
Yeah, I know.
So at first I take a step back and I'm like, how is this possible? But from the day he was born,
Yeah.
my daughter and son-in-law have a bottle in one hand, they have their device in the other hand.
Right. Right. This is true.
My next door neighbor who has a 1.5-year-old, and they said one of the biggest challenges they have, this little girl is now mobile, she's walking. All she wants to do is grab mommy or daddy's cell phone.
Yeah. It's true.
The world they grow up in, even in video gaming. I might have mentioned this 25 years ago. My children were probably 10 years old or so. Yeah, they had video gaming. They had the consoles. The distinction or the difference that I see is that they'd have to go to their friend's house. So their friends would come to our residence. They would plug it into the TV, their Xbox, whatever the device console was, and they would play against each other. Today with online, you're playing against individuals from other countries, South Korea, Belgium, Nigeria, China.
Mm-hmm.
And the other concern too is you don't really know who these people are. A lot of predators out there.
Yes, you're
And
right.
so many concerns. I told
Yeah.
my wife, I'm glad we don't have children today. Her response
Yeah.
is, yeah, we have a 3.5-year-old grandson, so we're worried about him. What is he being exposed to? And again, not a criticism, and maybe I'll just end with this. I am grateful. For example, if you were to go to the law that's been enacted, which is in place today, if you went to wherever you wanted to buy a pack of cigarettes, correct? They card you. You have to show them ID that you're old enough.
Mm-hmm.
60 something years old. I don't look old enough. Oh, thank you. Can I kiss you now? Right? But in the same establishment, they're selling lottery tickets. But there is nothing that says that you have to show ID that you're 18 years old. Again, it's just a statement of fact. It's not a criticism. What I personally like to see that you're carding, you're asking to prove that you're 18 years old. Back prior to the shutdown, my routine was I would leave and leave the home, stop to get a cup of coffee on my way to, possibly doing a presentation at your outstanding organization, the Mercer Council, the Mercer Coalition. One that I'll never forget. There was a woman that walked in here with her 2 young children, didn't even leave the store, bought a scratch off for 2, gave it to her children, is scratching off, right? The kids are scratching off right there in the store,
Oh,
in this retail establishment. I
wow.
was like,
Yeah, start them young, huh? What a
and
shame.
well, even during the holiday season, Christmas,
Giving
Hanukkah,
them as gifts. Yeah.
yeah, especially like grandparents that maybe have retired and they're living in Florida or they've moved away. My
Right.
question is, well, first of all, it's illegal. Second of all, yeah, I know it's cute to see your 4 or 5-year-old grandson or granddaughter scratching off. You see the excitement in their face. Well, the excitement they get is because they see the excitement on their parents' and grandparents' face, right?
Right.
How come, and please, maybe I'm going to overstep my bound. Alcohol is legal, not for adolescents. Tobacco products are legal. How come it's not fun to put a shot glass and a cigarette in their hand? And even now, getting back to, I think you understand what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
It's just about continuing to do the work, put the message out there. Early exposure potentially is going to lead to problems later in life. You know,
It
onset
is.
may take longer.
It is. You get that hit of dopamine when when you do that scratch off ticket and you see that you won something. It's very exciting. You're right. And then,
Absolutely. Well, even with the analogy of what you shared about this individual that developed some problems with video gaming,
yeah, yeah,
right? Just the excitement, the rush,
yeah,
till it becomes a problem.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and even with these, the monetization of video gaming, I don't think
Mhm,
parents understand. They
mhm,
give their children their credit
mhm.
card. Next thing they're getting they're thousands of dollars in charges because they're making these purchases. I guess the ultimate concern is, and the convergence is, the psychology is almost identical to adult gambling.
Yeah,
But what the children do, one of the reasons that March is National Problem Awareness Month is to coincide with this tournament that they referred to as March Madness, which is the college men's basketball tournament.
right.
You know, pretty soon, I believe, to the best of my, I should know this, I think Sunday they have the selection, which universities made the tournament. I think there's 68 teams and they have the brackets and you fill them out. And, you know, but what the kids do is they might throw in $1 a piece. And if you have 20, 30, 40 of your classmates doing this, and then whoever has the most number of correct selections wins the pool. By definition, that is gambling.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I was called to a school a couple of years. We got a call, and actually, one of my other colleagues had went and did a presentation. The children, the adolescents, don't even know that they're doing anything wrong, or they shouldn't be doing or partaking in these activities. We got called in. We got a call because there was about, I think, like 10 of them in the lunchroom. They had a couple of dollar bills on the table, and they were just throwing dice.
Yeah.
When they got caught, they were like, "We're not doing anything wrong."
So it's real important, I think, for parents, like as you said, have the conversation, talk to your kids, your youth about what gambling is, what problem gambling is, talk about the different dimensions of it, bring up examples of people that have lost fortunes or lost, talk about addiction, all of these things. It's really important to have not one conversation, but many conversations. And if
Yeah, and
it's,
there's so many things. I don't know if it was before we started, you and I had a brief conversation, and I had talked about the legalization of marijuana in the state of New Jersey.
Mhm.
But here again, the concern is the impairment component. Gambling
Yes,
is difficult enough. Now you
yeah,
introduce alcohol, you introduce potentially marijuana. Now there's an impairment component to it. There's a lot of things I believe, but also, Barbara, honestly, I think every generation has had challenges.
yeah,
We just live in this time today, and
mhm,
these are the challenges that we seem to be facing. I'm not against technology. Look at the advances that have been made in medicine because of the
mhm,
technology.
yeah,
Yes, this whole pandemic, this COVID-19, this stay at home, no one's experienced this. Occasionally, you
no,
look on the news, or someone survived. You know, the that person was an infant 100 something years ago, and now they're like 103 years old. God bless them.
right,
Right? But what
right,
knowledge do they really have of it?
yeah, of what happened. Well, I want to thank you, Frank. This has really been very illuminating for me. I learned a lot. And I do appreciate your time coming out and speaking about this. Again, just give that number again for people if they want to call for information or get more resources.
800 Gambler, and it's man 24/7. You can also go to our website, 800gambler.org.
Great, great.
Please don't
Okay,
hesitate to call. We're
okay.
here to help.
Thanks again, Frank, and have a
Our
great
slogan is
rest
support,
of the
treatment,
day.
and hope. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Bye, everybody. Okay, I believe.